Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of 10 for the Chairman. For those that you haven't watched this before, it's where I take 10 questions from subscribers and answer them as best I can. For those of you that don't know, subscribers are the subset of the overall backers of Star Citizen that are kicking in extra money every month to allow us to do additional community outreach, spend time answering these questions, doing Wingman's Hangar, doing Jump Point, and a bunch of the behind-the-scenes stuff that helps inform everyone out there in the community what we're up to. So thank you all to subscribers, and of course thank you to backers for just enabling us to be making the game of our dreams. So first of the 10 questions comes from McKeeve D, who asks, how is your sound studio developing and what are your plans? Have you heard of real-time voice porting? Good sound is an essential part of the gaming experience. Could you please present or say something about your plans? So on the sound studio front, we're going to be building a small sound studio in the new Austin offices. Plus, we're actually expanding into a additional space here in Los Angeles, and the space we're expanding into already has a built-in sound booth and room that we'll be taking into our office. So we'll have the ability to record actors' voice for VO and stuff, and do sound balancing here and in Austin, and we'll make sure they're both connected. We have actual gigabyte internet of fiber now running from here to Austin, so we'll be able to do a fair amount of that. I actually haven't heard of real-time voice porting, so I guess I'll go and Google it and find out what it is. Could be you're in Austin and you've got an actor in Los Angeles and you're basically directing your VO long distance, but which we will have those abilities to do in our stages. But yeah, we're going to have a full-featured sort of sound setup here, and sound's an important part of the game. So we're really sort of focusing on quite a few things. One, we're going to be enhancing the sound system inside Star Citizen, so we're going to make a move to WYs from Fmod, which will just it just has some more real-time filters and plugins that are good for the sound guys. The sound guys like to use it for the sound editing, and we're really working hard on how to make a realistic soundscape, and also we're going to have some great dynamic music. So anyway, we're pretty focused on the sound, although you haven't really appreciated it yet, but you will be seeing it down the road. Okay, next question comes from Bryn, who asks, with so many high-value accounts existing well before the game is released, would you consider supporting security hardware such as RSA, Secure ID Authenticator, or other such two-step verification methods? Well, I don't. That's a good question. That's not so much what I focus on. John Erskine, who's sort of head of all our online operations and sort of digital publishing, is and he works closely with Turbulent, and together they've sort of been working with Jason Spangler, our CTO, on our sort of digital platform. So we're always looking at various ways to increase our security and thinking ahead of the game of like when it becomes a bigger game than it is now with a lot more people, and the case of fraud or stealing in accounts, because we've been lucky, we really haven't had much of that so far, but as you become bigger, it always happens. Luckily, we've got some people that have had experience at that. John actually came to us from NC Soft, and before that he was at Origin, where he was working on Ultima Online. So he's actually had a lot of sort of big online MMO experience. So we're thinking about it, but we don't have anything firm to say yet, but that's definitely in our plans. Okay, next question comes from Rhesus, who asks, will humans be the only playable species upon launch? If so, do you plan on adding additional humanoid species such as the Banu Ajan to be playable? I think as a future add-on, it would work nicely as an expansion pack. Humans are going to be the only playable species upon launch, but we've said this before, we are planning to eventually let you play some of the other races like the Banu Ajan, and that would definitely be a sort of big major content expansion. So our plan is that we're going to have regular content updates, hopefully maybe not weekly, but at least bi-monthly as we go, but then we'll also have some much bigger content updates, which would be, say, another single player campaign like Squadron 42, or the ability to play one of the alien races. So that's all part of our plan, but right now we've got so much just to deliver what we've signed up for that that would be sort of stage 2. Okay, next question comes from Gunrage, who asks, mining and manufacturing will be an important part of the persistent universe. Will the mining platform in Squadron 42 concept art be available for us to purchase in the Star Citizen universe? What plans do you have for Star Citizen? Will we have warehouses and silos that we can purchase and expand upon? So I'm not sure about whether mining operation of the size of the Shubin one that's sort of detailed in Squadron 42 would be available for players to purchase or use right off the bat in the game. We're definitely planning on allowing players to be able to do mining operations and get groups together and do it either on a small scale or a larger scale. And you certainly will be able to, as you sort of build up, have a silo or warehouse or have your mining operation. So I think there will definitely be cases where a player will be able to buy, say, a mining station and then can sort of slowly build it up over time and hire other people to help them out and do all the rest of the stuff. So it's there. I just don't know whether it will be a base the size of the Shubin one, but maybe that could be down the road. So we're still working it out. We've got actually a pretty cool mining mechanic, and we're working. We're going to do sort of voxelization of asteroids, and there's a whole sort of. There'll be anyway. It won't be just holding a space bar and 2 hours and you've now mined something. And so there'll be a lot of logistics involved in terms of getting the minerals, then taking it to somewhere to get refined, and all the rest of stuff. So all along the sort of mining and logistics chain, people can get involved. So I think it'll be kind of a cool game for people that like to do that, and that's kind of the idea with Star Citizen, to have all these different things you can do that sort of suits all different tastes. Okay, next question comes from Tamara, who asks, because Star Citizen is a sandbox, will it be possible to infiltrate an organization with your character? Will there be some tools to use your main character for that? For example, I'm in an organization A that is at war with organization B. Will I be able to hide that I'm a member of organization A without leaving my organization so I can infiltrate organization B? Otherwise, it will require a second character. So yes, we are actually thinking about having basically spying, infiltration, all built into the game mechanic. So we've already, it's not in organizations yet, but there is some stuff that will drop in actually the website that will even allow maybe a little bit of that in there, and then in the game we will definitely allow people to sort of do a little bit of that, because it's kind of fun. It's a whole nother sort of meta game that can happen, and quite frankly, if you sort of, when you read about that sort of stuff happening in EVE, it actually always reads more, it always seems much funner than whenever you watch the videos of it. So, but we're going to try and build that in, and it may actually be cooler when you're sort of more visceral in first person. So there will definitely be the possibility of that in the game, and that's something that we're working towards. Next question comes from NeoOnyx13. Given the episodic delivery of Squadron 42, will consequences of our actions between episodes migrate to the new portions of the story? For example, if I was on a losing track during the first iteration of Squadron 42, would that be the path I would start on in the next installment of the adventure, even if I was doing awesome during my stint in the persistent universe while the next episode was being developed? It's probably unlikely the persistent universe is going to be up and fully functioning by the time that Squadron 42 is being played in an episodic manner. So the whole concept of us to play Squadron 42 in an episodic manner was we can't really give everyone the whole thing as kind of a broken alpha, because it's a story, so you'd ruin the story. So the idea is we're going to probably have, well, not probably, we will have Squadron 42 in a more polished state when you first start playing it, but it'll only be the first 10 missions because it takes so long to get all these things done and polished correctly. And then we're sort of going to run it more, think of it like episodic TV or a mini-series event. And so the team basically will be finishing and polishing the levels, and when they've got it done, then they'll be pushing it out to all the backers out there. And that'll be something you'll be playing while waiting for the full persistent universe to come up and running. So we'll probably have an alpha of portions of the persistent universe, maybe a system or two that you can travel between, but in terms of having the full persistent universe, you can really go around and explore all the edges. That won't be until after Squadron 42 will be completed, because the biggest thing we're doing is the persistent universe, and it has the most amount of content. So that will definitely take the longest. So kind of our roadmap really is, dogfighting, which we're working on right now to get dogfighting V1 out, which is sort of the single-seater fighters. Then there'll be dogfighting V2, which will be the multi-crewed ships, the bigger things like Constellation, Freelancer, and something like the Idris, although that may not make dogfighting V2 at the beginning and it'll be a drop later. Then after that, we would debut the sort of first-person combat section, which will probably have a sort of alpha test level. It's on an abandoned mining colony that's pretty cool that we're building right now. And then there will be a combination of that with the ship, so you could have sort of dogfighting / shipboarding happening. So capture one big ship in the middle and people have to do the fighter cover. Then we'll probably have a planet side module, and then at that point we will start to go to the episodic delivery of Squadron 42, so the first 10 missions and then the next 10 missions, and then at some point in that we'll probably be giving some alpha of the persistent universe, and then by the time Squadron 42 is finished, hopefully the persistent universe will be ready at least in a beta format for all the backers, and then sometime after all that, all these things will be done and polished and we'll call it done, although nothing's ever done in an online world because we're always going to be constantly tweaking and improving it. As far as that goes, you're not really going to be able to sort of play Squadron 42 and then just drop out into the persistent universe between the 10 missions you're doing, because you're in the military. It's just like time will have suspended for you and you come back and pick up the story where you left it off. Generally, the losing paths that are in the segments of missions we're doing will be in that sort of whatever you want to call it, episode or whatever. So they're fairly self-contained in terms of like chapter segments, the different missions. So those probably, at the end of each one, you've either, failed, left the military, or you're bam onto the next thing. You've got a cliffhanger and what's happening in the next 10 episodes, and that's kind of the structure that we've been working towards. Next question comes from Yaman Carr. Given your background as a producer in Hollywood and with the full motion videos in the Wing Commander games, what do you think the potential would be for a Star Citizen TV series? Well, I think the universe, if we manage to do it right, will be pretty compelling. And I think at that point, it's really just going to be about people who want to spend time in the universe. I mean, primarily, obviously, flying around themselves. But, I think there's already quite a number of people that like to read David Haddock's fiction online, and that's just sort of in the written fashion. So longer term, we've been toying around doing some sort of linear content that would enhance essentially the game experience, where there would potentially be characters that we would do some, like Kid Crimson's a good example that we had back on our web, our website a while ago, and he would be a great character to run around the universe, and it would be great to sort of have his stories but not just be written in text, but actually sort of visually see them in environments in the world, and then occasionally in the game run across that Kid Crimson character. So that's kind of where we're thinking. That's obviously down the road. It's game first and then sort of segue to that, but we'd probably want to try and do it in a holistic manner so it works with the whole the whole universe, so we wouldn't really want to license it out somewhere, and we'd probably want to use a lot of our assets, right? So if we were going to do it, we're not sure whether it would be all digital characters or it would be actors against green screen, and then the rest would be all the universe of Star Citizen using the incredibly detailed environments and ships and all the rest of the stuff. But that would be down the road. But we think there potentially could be some great potential there. I mean, obviously there's a lot of machinima stuff out there that people like, and I think people like anything, if the story and the universe connects enough, I think people like to experience it in more than one manner. I mean, I certainly have myself in something like Star Wars. So longer term, that would be something we would consider, but short term, heads down, just building the universe in the first place and getting the game out there. Okay, next question comes from Osarian, who asks, are there any plans to bring back some of the voice actors from the previous Roberts productions? Checky Caro, David Suchet, John Rhys-Davies, or use other well-known voice actors, Jennifer Hale, Ron Perlman, or start with fresh actors? P.S. Can we have a character's voice acted by Chris Roberts, Sandy Gardner, or Eric Wingman-Peterson? Better yet, all three. Well, we haven't disclosed, who we're going to get. I mean, I don't really want to do that until we've finished the Squadron 42 script, which we're in the process of writing. We've got the outline and everything, but we haven't finished it. It's going to be 700 pages plus of, fairly large. That's what happens on something that has this scale. Yes, we are going to have some, definitely be bringing back a few people that I've worked with before. And also we'll be bringing back, or not bringing back, but bringing in some really interesting and good character actors. I mean, obviously I have a lot of experience from making my movies and have a lot of relationships. So like, for instance, I've worked with Ron Perlman. He's a great guy. I mean, we made Outlander together. and there's a whole bunch of other people that I think would be great and to use in our game. And we probably, if we bring the actors in, we're doing full body motion capture, full facial capture, and also head scanning and all the rest. So if we did have a Ron Perlman or someone else that's a fan favorite in, it would look like them, which would be kind of cool. So we'll do that, and I'm sure there's going to be some cameos from the various development people here. I mean, if you remember Wing 3 and Wing 4, and actually the Wing Commander movie too, I have a cameo in every one of them, and I'm pretty confident we'll be putting myself and Sandy and Eric and probably a few other people in the universe. It's a big universe, so we've got to populate it with a lot of different people. Okay, next question comes from Bayor the Red, who says, given the nature of the persistent universe, with fringe systems also being the most lawless, are PvP and exploration intrinsically linked? Will I need to always be ready to fight for my life while exploring and bring an Idris full of battle-hardened friends wherever I go? I don't necessarily think so, because that's sort of making the assumption that if you're exploring and finding new systems, that system's teeming with pirates or PvP, which won't necessarily be the case. So some of the exploring stuff is going to be off the beaten track, and therefore won't be somewhere that everyone will naturally go to. And so in certain cases in the exploration mode, we're probably going to have it tuned in such a way that the ability for sort of a PvP encounter in that sort of off the exploration mode wouldn't necessarily be as high as being in a notorious sort of a lawless pirate system. Now, that's not to say there won't be any chance of it at all, because there definitely will be, because there has to be some risk and there has to be some tension when you're in the unknown. You don't know who you're going to come across. I think that's definitely going to add to the game experience. But the goal would be to sort of balance that. So there's a whole bunch of things that we're going to try and do. I mean, I know we always have raging debates between PvP and PvE on the forums, and everyone's pretty much dug in. It's intractable. It's like an argument on religion or politics. But my naive hope is I think I have a pretty good take and a system that will hopefully make both sides be pleasantly surprised and kind of deal with most of the issues that everyone's worried about. But we'll see, right? So I have to wait till we get there. So I would ask everyone that you sort of wait till it happens, and we're also going to be key balancing. But we've got some sort of tricks up our sleeves I think will make it work well. And everyone's got to remember that there's going to be a huge amount of people from both sides, PvP and PvE, playing this game. So I know that everyone on the PvP side feels like, well, if there aren't PvE people there that I can fight, then who am I going to be able to take out easily? Which doesn't make much sense, because there's no reason why NPCs aren't going to be that hard, aren't going to be as tough as a normal player, and vice versa on the PvE. They said, oh, well, if everyone's PvP, they're just out to gank me, which also I don't think is necessarily true. But we certainly can make sure that people that have a preference one way or another tend to be grouped together when they play, and that affects kind of what we're doing in the game. But it's sort of a delicate balancing system. There's a lot of metrics that will go into it. I have some pretty good, strong ideas. I mean, all I can say is that people should take faith in the fact that the game will be balanced in the way that I kind of like it to be played, and for the way I like it to be played is I'm not extreme on either side. So some days I like to be competing, doing PvP, and some days I like to be doing PvE, and I don't want to be dealing with other people. So the game is going to allow you to be able to sort of have those experiences, and in such a way that it won't be detrimental to the other experience. So there you go. I'm sure there'll be a massive forum war waged on this right after this episode. Okay, last question comes from Nomad, who asks, will Squadron 42 or the Star Citizen Persistent Universe contain content that pays homage to some of your past games, e.g. Wing Commander or Freelancer, that fans will pick up in NPC dialogue, UE news bulletins, hidden Easter eggs, or the like? So all I can say is yes. In fact, I mean, if you notice, we've already did it. If you look at the Squadron 42 cinematic trailer we did back in October 2012, there's lots of Wing Commander homages there. So we've definitely got some, even in the dogfight that's coming up. We have a homage to Wing Commander. So you will see in the virtual network that you join to do the dogfighting simulation, and the company that has created it in 2944, it's all kind of an homage. So we'll definitely be continuing to do that, and it will be fun. All right, that brings us to an end of another episode of 10 for the Chairman. Thank you all for listening to my rather long, rambly responses or answers to your questions. And again, thank you to subscribers for contributing money every month to allow us to sort of do this extra level of content. And thank you in general for backers out there for putting up the money to enable us to make the game to the level and ambition that we are making it for, which I think is pretty unprecedented in the games industry. And so thank you all, and I'll catch you next week.